Today on The Spotlight, we're joined by Dillon Srikumar, one of the investment analysts at Cliffbrook Capital. Dillon, thank you for joining us. I was wondering if we could start off by talking a little bit about your uni time, because you studied law and finance at UCID. I just wondering how that sort of led into property.
Yep. No, great question. And thank you for having me, Charlotte. It's great to be here. So like you said, I studied a Bachelor of Commerce and Law, majoring in finance at Sydney Uni, and kind of didn't know anything about real estate for the first 4 years of that degree. I was kind of umming and ahhing for a lot of time whether I should go into finance, go into law. Got to about the start of year 4 and thought to myself, I've come this far, might as well practice law. And then it came at a pretty good time, like started the semester, and PropConnex released their case competition. I was like, oh, you know what? I haven't done a case comp yet at uni and might as well give this a go. And when we did it, me and my friends kind of just fell in love with real estate after that. Just thought it was so cool that you kind of were able to use our finance knowledge and apply it to something that's so tangible and something so real. And after doing the PropConnex case comp, got my internship at Cliffbrook out of that, and I've never looked back since. And I've just thought real estate's a great place to be, such a people environment and industry, and seeing kind of what you model on a page come to life is a great takeaway.
Yeah, that's such a good way of looking at it, going from, an Excel sheet to, I guess, the real world final product. It's amazing. Were all of your friends that you did the case competition with, were they interested in property or studying it in any way, or were you guys all from finance backgrounds?
All the same. We were all finance backgrounds and never really... One of the guys, his dad, worked in real estate, like construction and development. Mm-hmm. But we were all just comm finance guys and didn't really know too much about how the actual real estate works. But yeah, so it was kind of a learning curve we all had to go on together. And all kind of ended up in the exact same place. We all fell in love with it and have all tried to kind of emulate careers within the industry.
It's so amazing the connections you create from PropConnex, and you're able to keep in touch with them for ages because you all work in the same industry and stuff, which is wonderful. Yeah. Was that one of your highlights, would you say, from uni, or were there any others?
Definitely. PropConnex was a great highlight, and it's a really weird way to put it, but we really enjoyed the late nights together. Yeah. Trying to figure out strategies and modeling and all this kind of stuff. And that was kind of at like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning when we kind of look at each other like, oh, it's actually that late, but we're having a great time because we're with each other, working through these things and problem solving. So that was a great moment. I would say kind of the other big moment for me in university was kind of the exchange I got to do overseas. So last year I got to spend 3 weeks over in London at the London School of Economics. Mm-hmm. And kind of tagged on a couple of weeks after that as well to travel around Europe, but like really just fell in love with Europe and London itself, and kind of have come back and realised I want to spend a couple of years living over there just because of how close you are to everything, but kind of also being able to experience a different type of learning, a different environment of living was great. And so that's kind of my 2 big highlights from university.
That's awesome. What was life at LSE like?
Oh, it was great. It was pretty well. Mind you, it was during the Euro summer for the football.
That would have been amazing.
So we kind of go to class in the morning and then go to the pub to watch the first game, and then go to the bit of the lecture and then go to the pub to watch the second game.
Had a very full schedule.
Very full schedule. Had to make the most of the 15, 18-hour days of sunlight. But no, it was fantastic. I think I did a course that I was really interested in. So once again, off the back of PropConnex, I did alternative investments over in LSE. So that's kind of real estate and alternative markets, private markets type of course, and really enjoyed it because it was just like, it's kind of what I want to do as a career. So I got to do something I enjoy for the coursework, and it wasn't too difficult. And then kind of make friends with people that are all like-minded all over the world, not just from Sydney like you would at UCID, but guys from the UK, guys from America, guys from China, all this kind of stuff, who all have this same sort of passion that they want to kind of go into private markets after university and pursue that career long term. Kind of just makes you think that actually the world is a lot smaller than you think it is. But yeah, so apart from the drinking and the watching the football and somewhat getting to all the classes, that's kind of how I spent my time over there.
That's awesome. Again, it's kind of those 15-hour days where you're just having such a good time that you don't really notice how late it's getting sometimes and stuff like that.
It's kind of surreal when you kind of look at the watch and it's 10:30 and like the sun's just about setting. It's like, this is ridiculous. Like,
yeah. Oh, I mean, got to make the most of it, though.
Exactly, yeah.
I was just wondering if we could go back to you starting as an intern at Cliffbrook. What was that process like and how did you apply for the internship?
Yeah, so out of the PropConnex case comp, Cliffbrook kind of approached couple of unis and the guys that made the finals and offered this internship, and then kind of just applied for it out of the first year I did it, and was kind of just thought, you know what, let me see how far I can take this sort of thing. So applied for it, had a really chill conversation with the associate at the time, and then had an interview with the partners, Paul Heller, who runs PropConnex. And it wasn't like a really grueling interview about modeling and technicals. It was just a really like get to know you. Are you a good cultural fit? Get to know what the business does. And that's purely by virtue of the fact that I did the PropConnex case comp, and you can kind of see from that what you're able to do from a technical perspective and produce the work you're able to produce, the way you're able to think about deals. I think that's a great kind of way to approach recruiting for graduate roles, because it's like everyone sits there and can rote learn, you know, how to run a DCF or how to do an LBO. But being able to like put into practice these skills in an environment that is very much alike what you do day to day at these places kind of shows you actually are made for the industry and the way you think about things. And then the interview becomes a lot easier, and it's more like for them and for you, it's like, are you both a fit for each other? So I think that's kind of the direction Paul likes to take with his interviewing for Cliffbrook, and it's something that I really enjoyed about it.
That's wonderful, and that's it's great that they're sort of doing that cultural check on like, hey, how can you integrate with our team, and what was something that you, as part of that process, were like, wow, this would be a great cultural fit for me. I can learn a lot here.
I think it was the fact that on the very first conversation, Paul was like, we have this really open plan seating, and we take our phone calls from our desks, and we discussed, me and the partners, about deals and stuff like that at our desks in front of everyone. And so he was like, basically the juniors are able to kind of listen to this and understand sort of, you know, our approach to thinking and deals and all this kind of stuff. And that really resonated for me, because it was like, I can sit here and listen to these guys who have so much experience and so much knowledge in this industry, and just listen to them talk and try to just like take every bit of it that I can. And that translated perfectly into when I started work, because it's exactly how the culture was at Cliffbrook. It's basically, we all sit around, you know, in a pretty open space, and Paul and the other partner, Dave, they just chat amongst each other. And I just sit there and like a sponge absorb everything. And so I probably learned so much just from sitting down and listening to them talk. And I thought that was great for my learning.
Yeah, it's like a very natural way that you can sort of see it in context.
Yeah.
And learn as you go. Was there anything in the transition from being an intern to going full-time that was sort of a surprise for you, or was it a very natural progression?
It was pretty natural, but I would say you kind of get a bit more autonomy and responsibility when you kind of bridge that gap into being full-time. I think as an intern, naturally, you're there 3 days a week, so it's a bit hard to kind of give you work streams for you to work on, you know, like ongoing. But I think as I started full-time, it is more, you know, you get looped in on emails with clients, you get to come to their meetings a lot more, prepare more materials and kind of converse with consultants and all that kind of stuff. And that's been great. I think being at a place like Cliffbrook, getting that kind of exposure and responsibility so early on in my career is something that I've really, really enjoyed.
You know, allowing you to hear all the discussions, do you think that's really helped you sort of gain that confidence to take on those extra responsibilities because you've been able to learn through osmosis almost?
Yeah, definitely. I think the way that I kind of approach my work, dealing with consultants and whatnot, has been just purely a byproduct of what I've been able to learn from other members of the team when they take phone calls and when they talk about different aspects of deals. And so everything that I do now is purely just based on that learning. Yeah.
Has there been anything since starting work, like a specific skill that was something you didn't have past experience in, you know, from uni or from the case comps, that was a bit of a learning curve for you when you started?
Yeah, I would say that it's more so a kind of the negotiations aspect of real estate and kind of the people aspect of it. I think when you do the case comp, you're so in the weeds of the finance and you're so in the weeds of getting the deck done, and it's basically all hypothetical. It's like, oh, we would negotiate this, so we would have this in place, blah blah.
You can make some pretty grand assumptions.
Exactly, yeah. It's like, oh, we won't pay them performance fees. Like that's fine. That's let's negotiate it. But I think in reality, you kind of, a big part of the deal is working with your operating partners, your capital partners, and trying to figure out, a structure that kind of benefits you both. And I think what I've kind of lost from the case comp is like this fact that everything kind of is all sunshine and roses, but in reality it's not. Like you spend a lot of time negotiating different aspects of a deal with not just a seller, but also the clients and these consultants like I mentioned. And that has to be reflected in your underwriting as well. So I think I've had to add on this whole new layer of thinking. It's not just, oh, this is what I think, I'm going to put it into my model. It's now, I've had this conversation with someone. This is where we're sitting on this kind of aspect. So this is why we have these numbers in our model running through. And I would say the other biggest thing is like just the people. Like I think the industry is so people heavy and relationship based. I didn't understand before how small the Australian real estate market is. Every single vendor knows who they're selling to. Every buyer knows who they're buying from. Every bank knows who they're lending to. And it's never a conversation of, oh, let's reach out and kind of sound the market. It's more like, I'll give a call to my mate who works here and we can talk about this. And so I realized how important it is that you have to be firm kind of with your stance on things and your view on deals, but you must also be fair, because the detriment that kind of being this rogue sort of corporate cowboy walking around trying to screw people over, the detriment that has to your reputation and your ability to do future deals is incredible. So it's really important to kind of manage those two things, which is something I didn't really realize prior to kind of starting full-time work.
It's kind of one of those things that you can only learn through experience, though, isn't it?
Exactly.
And I guess, you start with grassroots networking at uni and, developing those relationships so that hopefully once you get into the workforce, you've got those relationships so that you can carry through. And as you said, you can't be sort of a corporate cowboy and screw people over. You have to, nurture and take care of those relationships so that they last you a really long time.
Exactly.
We've interviewed some people a couple months ago, and they were talking about people that they met 50 years ago that they're still doing business with or they're still in touch with. So it's, it's amazing how long the relationships you build in this industry last.
Definitely, yeah.
What were some of your networking tips that you could maybe pass on to people who are still in uni trying to develop those early relationships? Yeah,
I would say the key to networking that I realized is the follow-up.
Okay.
I think it's great to reach out to someone and say, let's grab a coffee. I want to kind of learn what you do. I kind of want to have a chat about opportunities. But I think the value in networking comes from what you say after that catch up. Do you just let that die? Do you kind of just say, oh, thanks for the coffee, let's catch up soon again? Or do you kind of say, that's great insight what you've given to me, let's circle back in, say, a month's time or a couple months' time, couple weeks, have another chat, and I can kind of give you my thoughts on where I'm at, what I'm thinking about. Because that's how you kind of build the true relationship with someone else. A one-time coffee chat is fantastic, but you want someone to be able to, months down the line, years down the line, think about something and think about you and be like, oh, you know what? I know this guy. I'll give him a call. Let's have a chat. And so I think what I've learned is that in uni, it's really pushed on you to go out and network with people and build these relationships. But in reality, you kind of meet with them once or twice and then nothing ever happens. It's so important, I think, to just continually follow up, catch up. Even if you kind of have nothing to talk about, just kind of say, look, you know what, since our last catch up, I've got to here, I'm looking at this industry, I've think about doing that. But just constantly conversing with people that have more experience than you and have kind of been there and done that. And so I would say something that I learned personally was really just focusing on following up with the right intent after I've kind of reached out to someone first.
And it also, I guess it shows gratitude for their offering you their time.
Yep.
and you want to make the most of that and
Definitely.
Be grateful for it, I guess.
Yeah.
Are there people throughout your career that you've met who have kind of become mentors from those relationships, and I guess doing those follow-up and keeping in touch?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would say one of my big mentors is someone I work with, Paul.
Yeah.
I met Paul for the first time on a Zoom call when he kind of explained the PropConnex case comp, and he kind of walked through his CV, and I was like, wow, this guy is amazing. Yeah. And here I am, fast forward, say, 24 months, and now I work under him. And he's an incredible kind of role model, because not only does he work really hard and he has this great track record, and he's really pushing to kind of, be the best professional that he can be, he's also a really great person. I think what's lost a lot, I guess, on the finance industry is it kind of comes across a bit brash and a bit, you're all workaholics and you're kind of pushed to the brim, and your seniors don't really care about you. But I think Paul is a prime example that actually it's not really that case. He's kind of instilled with me that yes, you kind of have to work really hard, but also family is very important. Your partners are very important. Your downtime is equally as important. And also how important it is to kind of be nice to people and kind of give back.
Yeah.
Paul kind of went through university, a huge, worked at Goldman Sachs, Blackstone, and now he's come back to PropConnex to try to really build out the next generation of real estate professionals. And it's something he doesn't just do for the sake of it. He does it because he actually cares. And so I think, now for me personally, I've done the case comp a couple of years now, and I'm now in the industry and I love it. And I want to kind of further that purpose, bring in the next generation of professionals and help out where I can and give back where I can.
Yeah. All three of the founders for PropConnex, they're so focused on that paying it forward. Yeah. I remember at the sort of networking after the competition last year, JJ spoke about, you've got to pay that forward, and each of them, absolutely embody that 100%. Yeah. We were speaking earlier and you wanted to sort of consider coming back and judging. That would be a fantastic way to, continue it and pay it forward, I guess.
Yeah. No, I would love that. I think after being on the other side for a couple of years, it's kind of good to sit down and watch and give my own feedback.
Be on the other side of the table this time, exactly. The less intimidating side.
A bit less nervous as well.
Yeah, exactly. How many times have you competed in the case competitions? Because we met last year, but you did it the year before as well, correct?
Yeah, so I did it in 2023, the first year. We made it to the national final and we came second, and we were like, you know what, we have one more year to go at uni, let's try to go all the way, see what we can do. So that was kind of the push for us. And then once the 2024 one came out, it was drop everything and focus on it, yeah.
You guys crashed that one. I remember watching, because we went first, and so we got to watch all the other presentations, and your whole team, the Q&A, if we had gotten those questions, I don't think we would have done anywhere near as well. But your questions, you all answered them with such confidence and clarity in your response, and also being able to build on each other. Like, it just showed such an incredible team dynamic. It was truly amazing to watch.
To your point, that's kind of the benefit of experience, right? Like when we did it our first year, our Q&A was an absolute... It was horrendous. It just, everything fell apart because we thought we'd done so well to get to that point. And then we line up in front of like 10 of the industry judges, MDs from all over the shop. And they start asking questions and we just had no idea what to do. We kind of sat there looking at each other like blank face. And afterwards I just went on a walk and I was like, I can't believe this happened. Fast forward 12 months and just from like being in the industry as an intern for a couple of months, and then doing a couple more reiterations of the campus heats, campus finals, you kind of know where the questions are going to be and kind of know how to analyze around it. And I think that's purely the reason why we're able to kind of be so not only succinct but also kind of coherent and efficient with our responses in the Q&A.
Yeah. Do you think that's the biggest sort of growth you experienced across the two cases was in Q&A, or?
Definitely a big part of it was. I think we did pride ourselves by the end of it on like being able to really show off in the Q&A, because it wasn't so much that we knew more than anyone else. It was more so the fact that we knew our strategy really well. And yeah, we siloed out different parts of the whole presentation, but we wanted to make sure that each one of us knew the whole thing very well and could answer any question on it. So I would say yeah, the Q&A was something that we improved a lot on. But I think personally, I had done Cliffbrook for a couple of months by that point in time. So I understood kind of how financing works, how the deck really should look like, kind of how it should flow, what kind of information is important, how it should kind of be presented. And so that kind of helped as well. So just like minor kind of modeling things, presentation things, but then also just really focusing on understanding our strategy really well was the big takeaway for us, yeah.
Was the strategy your responsibility, or was that because you mentioned some things got siloed?
Yeah. No, I had no idea. To be honest with you, when we started doing all the cases, the strategy really wasn't something that I was that great at. Just because I didn't know how this real building worked. I didn't know kind of how would you find value in like a shopping center, like moving retail tenants around, or how would you find value in the way that the parking lot is set up in an industrial estate. I knew from like uni how to finance this stuff and how the numbers all worked out. So going into it, I didn't really understand the strategy too well. I just knew how to reflect that in the modeling. As we went through, I learned so much about the key takeaways and the key things you have to look for when you're trying to add value into real estate and build and develop and all this kind of stuff. So one of the guys who's great with development and asset management, he was kind of the front runner on blotting out these strategies. And then for us, it's like, let's learn, let's build upon it and go from there. So to your point, no, I wasn't really the guy in charge of the strategy at all. But by the end of it, I kind of was able to look at a deal now and say, okay, these are my thoughts on it. This is kind of how I think about it from not only a financing perspective, but also kind of from a real, tangible asset perspective. What's kind of the best and highest use for, this asset that you've got to deal with.
Yeah, but you would have brought such a unique perspective, having such a clear understanding of how it would look like in the models.
Your team all kind of have their own strengths. Every single person individually has got something that they really are good at, and making sure that comes together into this one kind of cohesive presentation at the end of the day is really fantastic. And I think that's kind of one of the things about our team that was so great was that we didn't all think the same. We had our disagreements and we had different ideas, but that's kind of the beauty of it, that we had this different thinking and then we're able to kind of bring it all together. And I think that's kind of where you get value, not only in the case comp, but also working full time in the industry. It's about having a team that thinks differently, and you can kind of come together and kind of piece together everyone's little puzzle into one.
What was something, when you're piecing together that puzzle, were there any skills or, maybe character traits from some of your teammates that you learned from them and sort of were like, wow, that's something so valuable that you bring to the team and I want to emulate that in some way, or anything like that? Yeah,
definitely. I think it's really funny because we had a couple of guys in our team that were so good at like building out an investment thesis, like churning through all of the macro data and then basically saying, because of all of this macroeconomics, this is what our investment is. And then we had another guy who was like so good at, okay, that's the investment thesis. How do we kind of generate value by implementing some sort of strategy behind that? And so he was like, we can build these sheds, so we can do that, repurpose or reuse or reposition something else. And I was like sitting there and I'm like, I would love to be able to do that on my own, coherently go through all this economic data and kind of say, okay, because of all of this, this is what we're going to do. Or pretty much look at like a picture of the site and kind of say, okay, I'll look at a picture of the site or like the surrounding suburbs and demographic and kind of say, okay, you know what, actually, maybe it's not, the best position to be industrial. Maybe it should be something else, self-storage, whatever. I think that's the thinking that like I developed over the 2-year period. I didn't have at the start, but by the end of it, I think those are the traits that I kind of got off everyone else and kind of built my own understanding of that. And I'm sure if you ask my team, they'll say the same thing about me. That they'll say, they kind of learned how to look at financing from a different perspective. And so, yeah, I think, like I was saying, it's about everyone kind of coming together, but also it's kind of taking away and learning from everyone else as well.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, you kind of become so well-rounded afterwards because you're able to learn from all these different people with different skill sets.
Yeah.
And, you know, working with the same team over 2 years, that's got to almost double that.
Yep.
Yeah. If you could give advice to someone who's thinking about doing the PropConnex competition this year, what would it be?
People ask me this, I always say the biggest thing when it comes to presenting is just your strategy. Like, in the real world, you may get the deal and you may not necessarily want to change something drastically, or you may just pass on the deal itself. But I think because it's kind of hypothetical, let your imagination run a bit wild and try to see kind of, you know, what can you think about, and then try to see if that works on paper. So I would say be focused on the strategy, because a lot of people would be like, you know what, I'm so focused on making sure this deal just is financially the best deal, because they've done all the finance but to back it up. But this is, once again, it's not a finance case comp, it's PropConnex. Yeah. It's about real estate, it's about kind of the tangible asset. So go out there and kind of, you know, think about, how do you want this thing to look? Do you want it to have a vision in mind, and see whether, you know, you can actually pull through on that. I think to take away from your guys' presentation in New York, it was fantastic. It was like, you know, you guys built out the recreational center and the leisure center and repurposed the retail facility. And I think that if an actual guy with money comes up and says, I've got this money, will I do this? They'll be umming and ahhing about changing something so drastically. But that's the beauty of the case comp, is that you can kind of sit there and change anything you want to and make it align with the numbers. And so I would say focus on the strategy always and make sure it's kind of downside protected. So whatever you come up with, make sure you've kind of stress tested everything to the max and say, what if our construction blows out? Or what if, you know, we don't get approval for this or that? Because that's where the questions come from. Because no one's going to sit there and say to you, oh, this number in your cash flow doesn't look right, explain it to me. They're going to be like, well, what happens if you don't get approval to build something like this? So what happens if, you know, instead of 12 months, you've got 18 months of downtime to build something?
So there's a model in those like contingency plans. And
exactly. Yeah. So I would say my advice to like people looking at doing the case comp is focus on the strategy and make sure it's kind of protected from anything that they can ask you about in terms of, you know, external factors.
The New York case was so interesting too, because it was right between the GFC and COVID hitting. Yes. So that was like, you know, in terms of downsides, you've just got two of the bookings of the most recently, the worst ones. Yeah. Which was, interesting for modeling that out and sort of trying to protect against that.
Yeah, well, I think that's the beauty of COVID, right? Because it really did kind of show you that these like Armageddon downside scenarios are actually, they can be a reality. And then you have to kind of price it in as well. So I think that's definitely translated also into like the industry itself. So I think when we look at things as well, you have to kind of really, you know, have your base case, but also have like what happens if COVID happens again or something similar. Yeah. I think
the doomsday scenario really built in there.
Armageddon doomsday scenario, meteor hits the
all of that kind of
all that priced in, because it's kind of shown in recent times that like anything can actually happen.
And that's like, you know, property being so tangible, you are exposed to other risks like with natural disasters and things like that really do, you know, can have some very drastic impact on your return at the end of the day and stuff. Yeah, and exactly. Sometimes you get put straight back to square one. When you were doing the case competition, did you guys work with mentors and industry people to sort of help support your learning along the way?
Yep. So we had Investor for our case comp as a mentor last year.
Amazing.
I think they were amazing.
Yeah.
So we reached out, not thinking much of it. We'll just think, you know, we'll meet up once or twice and kind of get a bit of an understanding of what Investor does. And then Amy from their team basically reached out and said, oh, let's have a chat. So we went to their office, had a chat in their room, basically about, she was asking us, like, what do you need from us? Like, you know, this is our first time being a mentor. You kind of tell us what you need and we'll try to give you that. So we kind of said, oh, like, wait for the case to come out, maybe a bit development, don't know what it is actually going to be, but it would be great to kind of sit down with you guys again once the case releases and kind of jot out thoughts about strategy. as soon as the case released, Amy messaged us and said, we're kind of going to get the whole development team together in a room and blot out like an hour and we'll have a chat. So we rocked up at about 2 p.m. to like a boardroom full of professionals and kind of sat down with them. And we kind of felt bad because we were like, oh, like we've prepared a couple of slides, but like we don't really have the thinking yet because quite frankly, we actually didn't know how it all worked and it came together. And we sat there for like 2 hours, and I'm sure these guys had places to be and meetings to be in, but they sat with us the whole time, writing out notes on the whiteboard, thinking amongst themselves, kind of like discussing. It was like they got the deal themselves and they were trying to figure out how to do it, and it was so incredibly valuable.
That's amazing.
And then not only that, they kind of then said to us, the week of the presentation, why don't you come to us with a draft and present it to us and give us some pointers? So we went and we presented to them kind of the week before the final case. And they gave us pointers, feedback on our deck, feedback on our presentation skills, incredibly amazing. And then after we presented, they then asked us to come back again and present for their executive team at their board meeting.
What an incredible opportunity. That's amazing.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. And I think that's what Paul wants from their sponsors. Like, be active, be involved, be great mentors to these students and investor with that and beyond. And so, I mean, I've expressed my thanks. As a team, we've expressed our thanks time and time again to Investor. But, once again, obviously, incredible opportunity for them and such incredible people as well.
Yeah, I mean, just offering that time and then also the whole team multiple times. Yeah. That's so amazing. They really sort of wrapped around you guys to help
exactly.
you and stuff.
It was it wasn't just us five that kind of went to the final. There was this whole investor team kind of underpinning us all.
We did a great job, team.
Yeah.
That's amazing, though. Was there anything about the investor culture that while you were kind of being mentored by them was, kind of a nice learning opportunity or something that you've taken throughout your career a little bit?
Yeah, I think definitely with investors, I think they always have this kind of, they'll never give you no for an answer. They won't give you a problem without a solution. So we sat there for a couple of hours trying to work through these things, kind of were hitting dead ends here and there. And then we got to a place where we thought we're kind of happy enough to let this be for now. An investor then sent us an email afterwards, kind of tying up loose ends and kind of saying, oh, well, we weren't sure about this. We went back and talked about it, and we've kind of got a more concrete answer for you here. And I thought that was kind of important to kind of take into my career. And it's, you kind of, there will always be little things that people will not kind of have closure on or have comfort on when you're talking about deals. But I think it's very important to always tie up loose ends. If someone mentions oh, it'll be good to see this scenario, just in passing in a meeting, I'll go and I'll try to build that scenario out and send them the information, because you have to be thorough with these things. And I think also probably saves you more time later on, because if you do the work now, it may come up again, and you've got the analysis there for it. So,
and it gives them confidence, and that tiny concern that they had, instead of it blowing out to something major, you've already settled that.
Yeah.
You've killed any concern that they've had, and you can give them that confidence in either investing with you or using your team and skill set.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Also, do you think that as a junior person starting your career, them taking the time to follow up and tie off those loose ends, it wasn't like you were forgotten and stuff like that, that they really did sort of treat you with a lot of respect and stuff?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. That's exactly how we kind of viewed it. It was, they weren't getting paid anymore to kind of, help us out. And they obviously had a lot of work to take that time out of the allocated time as well, to talk about it, research about it, then get back to us. Showed a lot of respect and kind of made us feel very, very, very valued, because we weren't just, the kids at the university doing a case comp. We were actually, almost members of a team working on the deal with them.
Yeah, that's amazing. Are there any mentors? I mean, we've spoken about a couple throughout this discussion, but are there any traits that you've sort of seen in them that you want to emulate as you continue to grow and, I guess, full circle, become a mentor eventually throughout your career?
Yeah, definitely. I would say it's kind of looping in juniors with things. I think when I get given responsibility at work, it's something that I really enjoy, because it's like, I'm going to give you a problem and the autonomy to go and try to fix the problem. And that's where I think I've learned a lot. And then if I have issues and I have problems, I'll come back and I'll ask questions. And I think that's the kind of mentor I want to be. I want to be someone that I can give juniors the responsibility and the ability to go out and try to solve problems on their own. And if they do fall on the way there, can ask me questions, and I can kind of not give them the answer, but walk them through the thinking behind it. I think that's been very important, because I think I wouldn't have learned as much as I did if I was just given the answers to things.
100%, yeah.
And even if I had to, even if we had a problem and I just watched a senior work through the problem, I wouldn't have learned much. I think the beauty and the value that I've received has been coming from me going out on my own, sitting down at my desk and I don't know how I'm going to figure this out, spending a couple hours on it, asking a couple more questions, and then kind of eventually, with a bit of help, then getting to the end goal. Because, and that kind of helps me advance. And I feel like a lot of juniors will benefit from that, because a lot of juniors, I think, and a lot of firms are kind of given the grunt work, and they're kind of given the work they don't get to see the bigger picture. I think the value of what I have at Cliffbrook is that I see the bigger picture. I get to see where my work fits into the broader business. I think that's very beneficial, because you actually have, an end goal you're working towards. You have a vision. You have kind of this meaning for what you're doing. And I think trying to create that for juniors one day, for me, would be a very important kind of aspect of my mentorship. Yeah,
100%. And seeing that, overall vision and goal, it's such a sort of North Star for the whole team to everyone to work towards. And
yeah, exactly.
That's amazing. Okay, looking into the future in 5 years' time, what are some of the milestones you want to have hit, or something you want to achieve? So 5 years into your career, what's on the horizon?
5 years into my career. So currently, we at Cliffbrook, we invest across equity and credit. And I think for me, I want to stay doing that. I don't want to silo myself into either one. I enjoy being able to think differently across the two sides of investing. So I think for me, it'll be, I want to kind of do more credit and equity deals, just as a general kind of goal. But I think also there's a part of me that really wants to kind of run deals from a start to finish. So kind of not just sit there and do the modeling or whatever, but also kind of involve the consultants, work on the tax structuring, work on the property due diligence, work with the lawyers, and kind of be the point of contact for all of that. And I think when you get to do that as a leader of a deal team, you will learn so much about how commercial negotiations work and how the actual process goes. So I would say more of what I'm doing now would be exactly where I want to see myself in 5 years' time. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's always such a good sign. It's like you're doing something you love and stuff like that. Now, before we wrap up, I just want to ask, what is a piece of advice you wish you had, 5 years ago when you were starting at uni, that if someone wanted to do what you're doing now, you wish you had been?
It's very, very cliche, but I think it's probably not used and not taken seriously enough. It's just go out there and do everything you can.
Yeah.
If I had my time again, I would join societies, I would go to networking events, I would do case competitions, because that's kind of the actual tangible skills that carry into the career itself. So it's great to really focus hard on your studies and make sure your marks are the best. But I think when it comes to setting yourself up professionally, you have to layer in, actual relationships with people, professional experience. And if you can't get that, the case competitions of university provide the next best thing. They give you an actual ability to go out there and pretend you are this big hotshot in the industry and do the deal. So I would say, if I had my time again, I would actually just go out and do everything that I could, get involved with everything that I'm interested in, And I know everyone says it a lot, it's always get involved always, but it actually is really, really important, because not only does it kind of set yourself apart from everyone else, because everyone, so many people do the degree, it also kind of gives you the ability to meet people that you can learn from down the track. And so now I get coffees with people that are at university, second year, third year, in a finance degree, wanting to do some of the things that I'm doing. And I thought, why didn't I do this when I was in second or third year? Meet with people that are juniors in the industry, learn from them, learn how, what they do from day to day, and really try to figure out for yourself, is this something I see myself doing in 5 years' time? So get out there, learn from people and just do everything that you can.
Yeah, take all those opportunities that you can get your hands on, and as you said, develop those relationships early on in university. Even the junior people are always going to be the people who have done the step that you're about to take, so they're a great point of contact to learn from and stuff. Thank you so much. It's been great catching up, obviously. Yes. But thank you for joining us today on The Spotlight. It's been wonderful learning all about your career and all the amazing stuff you've achieved, even this early on. So in 5 years' time when we catch up.
We should do before 5 years' time. But
absolutely. Absolutely.
No, but thank you so much, Charlotte, for having me.
It's been lovely talking. Thank you.